Uttamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtiki Om Agyantimanandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are resuming our discussion from the third canto, chapter 14, Pregnancy Uditi in the Evening, verse 13. Purapita no Bhagavan, Daksho Duhitra Vatsalaha, Amrni Tavaran Vatsa, Etya Prachata Naha Prata. In days long ago, our father, the most opulent Daksha, who was affectionate to his daughters, asked each of us separately whom we would prefer to select as our husband. So this is a discussion, or more than a discussion, this is Diti expressing affection to her husband Kashyap, and with the intention of joining together in a conjugal union. So we are saying that she has made several reasons why her husband should agree that a man protects the wife, especially in distress. She is distressed by lusty desires. He has been partial against her by not giving her a son, whereas the co-wives have all been blessed by her by a son. So in this way, she's making different arguments. Here, she's indicating a strong affection to Kashyap. How strong? So even from before she was married. So Srila Prabhupada says that it appears that free selection of a husband was allowed by father, but not by free association. So Aditi is the daughter of Prajapati Daksha. And when she was of marriageable age, then Daksha, he asked each one of them separately. So there were 13 daughters of Daksha who were married to Prajapati Kashyap, and then Diti is indicating that he asked each one of them separately. So the point that she was making was that she was very much in awe and love of Kashyap even before marriage, and out of her own free will, she agreed to be the wife of Kashyap. So she says that he was asking each one of us separately, which means that there was no undue pressure. So it's not that he called them all together and said, I'd like you to marry Daksh. Anybody who has an objection, raise their hand. So each one of them had completely independent choice. And out of that independent choice, Diti agreed to be given to Kashyap. So, so Diti is trying to express her strong affection for Kashyap to, to evoke reciprocal feelings in him. That I have always loved you, I still do, and you should treat me with love. Okay. Verse 14. Sa viditva majanam no bhavan santan bhavana त्रयोदशादा tasam yaste shilam anuvartah. Our well-wishing father, Daksha, after knowing our intentions, handed over 13 of his daughters unto you. And since then, we have all been faithful. Prem Kishore Prabhu, you may want to mute yourself. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that after hearing the last verse, Kashyap might ask that what happened after Daksha asked you this question. And then Diti mentions that out of shyness, we did not mention your name. So that's why she's saying after knowing our intentions. So by suggestions and nabhavam viditva. So expressing through other persons. So this was more like Vedic modesty. So in this matter, even though the girl gives her consent or denies it, but she does it either indirectly or through others. And then she says that 13 of us were given to you. You have blessed all the others with sons, and only I remain childless. We have all been faithful to you. So she is not condemning the other co-wives, but she is saying that I'm no less than them. So this irregularity is improper. It does not suit a man of your stature who is supposed to be equal to all, who is supposed to be equanimous in affection. So so while she is laying her claim on the affection of Kashyap because of her personal strong affection, the point she is making is, despite that, I have been discriminated against. Next verse. Athamikaru kalyanam kaman kamalalochan arto parashparam arto pasarpanam bhuman amogami mahiyasi. I'm sorry, so different meter. O lotus-eyed, kindly bless me by fulfilling my desire. When someone in distress approaches a great person, his pleas should never go in vain. So Prabhupada says that despite all that, Diti was concerned that her request might be rejected because of the untimely situation. So she's concerned that Kashyap might say that, yes, I recognize your affection for me. I have equal affection for you. I recognize that I have wronged you. and I will remediate it. But wait for a while. So in order to address that line of argument, which Kashyap will put later on, Diti says that this is an extraordinary circumstance. That when somebody in distress approaches a great person, then the plea should never go in vain. So under extraordinary circumstances, the Vedas allow for the rules to be bent. It's like Srila Prabhupada mentions in the 4th canto, that this is in the pastime of Prithu Maharaj, that when there is famine, one can eat cow meat. So it's extraordinary circumstance. Otherwise, it is condemned. Similarly, we see Vishwamitra, when he broke his, when it was time for him to break his fast, and because he could not find anything suitable to eat, he entered the house of a Chandal and ate dog meat there. Extraordinary circumstances. Same approach was also used by Kaikashi. So if you remember in Ramayana, Kaikashi approached Vishrava with almost the same set of arguments, that if you do not accept me as your wife, I will give up my life. And you are a great person. A great person gives shelter to one who is distressed. So you should accept me as your wife. And we know that Vishrava accepted her, and Ravan was born. So Aditi is presenting the situation as extraordinary, in which the ordinary rules of the Vedas can be bent without any significant repercussions. Verse 16. Iti tan veeramaarichaha kripanam bahubhashinim pratyahanuyan vacha pravradhanangakashmalam. O hero Vidur, Diti, being thus afflicted by the contamination of lust, and therefore poor and talkative, was pacified by the son of Marichi in suitable words. So we'll see in 6 verses from 16 to 21 that Kashyap will glorify his wife in order to pacify her of her desires. And Srila Prabhupada, he says that that lust should be considered to be a sinful contamination. Kashyap was engaged in spiritual activities, but he did not have sufficient strength to refuse his wife, who was thus afflicted. So Prabhupada said that he could have refused her strongly. And he makes an interesting observation that Maitreya is indirectly indicating that Kashyap was not as strong as Vidur, because Vidur is being addressed as Veera. So Veera means O hero or O conqueror. So because Vidur, he was a devotee of the Lord and he had conquered his desires. But unlike Vidur, Kashyap had not. So while he could have strongly spoken to his wife and put the conversation to an end, but the fact that he's continuing the conversation And that also, in a mood of pacification, indicates that he was inclined to have sexual enjoyment with his wife. Vishwanath Chakravarti also has the same opinion that Kashyap, he said Kashyap should have spoken strongly to Diti to stop the course of events. The fact that he did not but chose to pacify her indicates that he too was so inclined. Trying to pacify a person afflicted with lust by sweet words is like pouring fuel in a fire and only serves to increase the feeling of lust. So he says that because we'll see that Kashyap will speak very, very sweetly to Diti, which will not do anything to pacify her, but will have the opposite effect. Verse 17. Eshatyaham vidyashami priyam viru yadichhasi tasya kamam nakaha kuryat siddhistraivargikiyataha. O afflicted one, I shall forthwith gratify whatever desire is dear to you. For who else but you is the source of the three perfections of liberations? So Srila Prabhupada has a very powerful purport on this. He uses this opportunity to explain how a well-situated grahastha can make spiritual advancements. And he's really using this as an opportunity to preach to us, because Prabhupada realizes that in the current age, the majority of the people taking to spirituality will be grahasthas and will remain a grahastha. And the point he makes is that he actually glorifies the ashram. He says there's nothing wrong in it. It's actually a glorious ashram, provided it is executed in the Krishna conscious way. And Kashyap is also giving similar indications here. So the three perfections or liberations, Prabhupada says they are dharma, artha, and kama. So the wife is considered to be the source of moksha to the husband because of her service in helping him proceed in this direction using dharma, artha, and kama. So she assists in the performance of dharmic activities. She helps build the house, make the person economically self-sufficient, and she also protects from lust. So in this way, both the husband and the wife, they make progressive spiritual advancements. The wife helps the husband, and when the husband advances, the wife also advances. So Prabhupada says that it is essential, therefore, that girls as well as boys be trained to discharge spiritual duties, so that at the time of cooperation, both will be benefit. The training of the boys in brahmacharya and the training of the girls is chastity. A faithful wife and a spiritually trained brahmachari are a good combination for advancement of human mission. And chastity here goes beyond just the conventional understanding of chastity. Conventionally, chastity is understood as not having relationships outside marriage. That is, of course, included, but it also extends to dharma, artha, and kama. So chastity means being chaste to upholding the vows of the husband, chase to making suitable economic arrangements for the husband. So it's a position in which the wife acts as a fort and an anchor for the husband. Vishwanath Chakravarti says, it's a little humorous. Vishwanath Chakravarti says that Kashyap is speaking for a long time with the hope that the inauspicious twilight Sandhya will pass. So he's basically engaging in conversation, hoping that the inauspicious Sandhya will pass. So Sandhya is this time of the overlap, and there are 3 Sandhyas in a day, and they are defined by the sunrise and the sunset there. So as per Yagyavakya, each of the Sandhya has a presiding deity. The morning Sandhya is presided by Gayatri, who is white in color. The midday Sandhya is presided by Savitri, who is red in color. And the evening Sandhya is presided by Saraswati, who is black or dark blue in color. And Sandhya Vandanam, so at least for the Smarta Brahmans or as per Vedic process, the Sandhya Vandanam is an elaborate process involving 8 steps to be done. We generally just chant our Gayatri. So there is the Pratha Sandhya, there is the Madhyanika, and then there is the Shayan Sandhya. So each of these Sandhyas, they last for 3 Ghatikas. So in Ghatika is 24 minutes long. So each of the Sandhya lasts for 72 minutes. So the Pratha Sandhya, it lasts for 2 Ghatikas before sunrise and 1 Ghatik after sunrise. So 48 minutes before sunrise and 24 minutes after it. The Madhyan Sandhya, it lasts for 36 minutes before noon and 36 minutes after noon. And the Shama Sandhya, which is where Kashyap and Diti are, it lasts for 1 Ghatika before sunset, which is 24 minutes before sunset, and 2 Ghatis after sunset, which is 48 minutes after sunset. Now, also I do want to share that this is not the only definition of Sandhyas. This is from Yagyavakya, but this is mostly in the area of Karmakand, and there are different scriptures which opine the Sandhya occurrences and durations differently. According to certain, the Pratha Sandhya ends when the sun appears in the horizon. So it starts 72 minutes before the appearance of the sun. And the Shayan Sandhya, it ends when the sun disappears from the horizon. So it starts 72 minutes prior to the disappearance of the sun. So the times of these Sandhyas are also different, but based on the time of the year. Because the sunrise and the sunset change, but apparently the Madhyan Sandhya, it always happens at noon, as far as I could see. Okay, verse 18. Sarvashamanupadaya swashramena kalapravan vyasanarmanam matyeti jalayane yatharnvam. As one can cross over the ocean with sea-going vessels, one can cross the dangerous situation of the material ocean by living with a wife. Two ways to understand this statement: that a wife provides a pious way for the desires of the husband. So she is the boat on which the husband crosses over the dangerous material ocean, which is essentially an ocean of desires. And drowning in that desires is equivalent to leading a sinful life. So as long as the husband is taking shelter of the wife, he is protected. That's one way of understanding. The second is that a man and his wife, a husband and the wife, together they provide the support to the rest of the society. So the grahastha is the only ashram that is allowed to accumulate wealth, allowed to engage in commerce, allowed to live in relative comfort, but also along with the injunctions that they support the brahmacharis, the vanaprasthas, and the sannyasis. So they are saying that. So he's also saying that in the grahastha ashram we are providing the boat. We are providing support for the rest of the society. If there are no grahasthas, then how can there be the sannyas ashram? Who will support them? How can there be the brahmachari ashram? They will have nobody to beg from. So we are also providing support to the remaining ashrams in the society. Verse 19. Yamahuratmana hayardam shrehas kamasya manini yashyan swadhuramadhyasya umam sucharati vichvaraha. O respectful one, a wife is so helpful that she is called the better half of a man's body because of her sharing in all auspicious activities. A man can move without anxiety, entrusting all responsibilities to his wife. So we see that this phrase that the wife is the better half is actually anchored in the Vedas. And the reason that she's called a better half is that everything pious that is done by the husband accrues to the wife. Anything impious done by the husband stays with the husband. Anything pious done by the wife stays with the wife. Anything impious done by the wife accrues to the husband. So she's in a better situation. If the husband is sinful, then she has nothing to do with his sins. If the husband is pious, then she gets a share of piety. And in addition, any piety that she accrues. So Prabhupada says that by the Vedic injunction, the wife is accepted as the better half of a man's body because she is supposed to be responsible for discharging half of the duties of the husband. A family man has a responsibility to perform 5 kinds of sacrifices called the Panchayagya in order to get relief from all kinds of unavoidable sinful reactions occurred in the course of his affairs. So these Panchayagyas, they are Karmakandi Yagyas, but they are done along with the wife. So the Panchayagyas are like so Srila Prabhupada says that in order to get relief from sinful reactions. So they are basically to get relief from the 5 kind of debts. So the debts are there to the Devas. For that, the Deva Yagya is done. And a Deva Yagya is basically by offering oblations to the fire of sacrifice. Then there are debts to the Rishi, which is called Rishi Rin. And that is paid back by Swadhyay, by studying of the scriptures and by sharing it and passing it on to subsequent generations. Then there is the Pitri Rin, which is the debt to the departed forefathers. And that is paid back by performing the Pitra Yagya. Then there is the Manushya Yagya. Manushya Yagya is to fellow mankind, the debt that you have to society. And this is the Yagya over here is showing compassion by treating guests with honor, giving and charity, and by quickly forgiving anyone who has wronged you and doing beneficial activities for others. And the final rin is Bhuta Rin, and that is paid by performing Bhuta Yagya. The Bhuta Yagya is essentially compassion to living beings in general. So specifically to animals. So abstaining from eating the flesh of animals, inflicting violence on them, treating them cruelly, being kind to nature, to plants, to trees, minimizing the harm that you can do. That is Bhuta Yagya. So as part of the Vedic living, the person is expected to perform this Panchayagya in order to pay back this Pancharins. And Kashyap is saying that, and Prabhupada is commenting on what Kashyap is saying, that the wife is an essential part in performing this Pancha Yagyas, which is why Kashyap is making the statement that you're sharing in all the auspicious activities and all the Pancha Yagyas. And because of that, the person can move without anxiety. So the anxiety is that you have a debt and you haven't paid it back. By this, you can pay back your debt. Okay. Let me pause here and see if there are questions or comments.
The one in this 19th was about if one does between husband and wife. Is it where does this? What is the source of this? Like we heard this many times here, but source I'm not talking about like here in this case. Kashyap is telling, but what is the source here? We are talking about the Brahma giving for progeny, though that is a lineage what we are getting, but why these kind of rules? What is the source here?
It does not say where exactly it's coming from. My understanding is that it's coming from the fact that Kashyap is saying it at the dawn of time. It's coming from the Vedas. It's coming from the Manu the rule book of Manu. But one would have to look into the Karmkand part of the Vedas to find the exact which verse, which chapter, which Veda. That I'm not familiar with.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, just a comment about the better half. I would have never thought that this comes from the Srimad Bhagavatam or the Veda. We have heard this so much.
We have, yeah. There's a devotee in the temple who introduces his wife as his bitter half. He says this is the modern day Veda.
And then they said behind every great person there is a great woman.
Behind every great person, there is a great woman saying that I told you so. Okay, let's move on.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is Lalita. I have a doubt, like a question. Actually, I heard somewhere some devotee saying that we have to chant our Gayatri, during this time, this 48, I don't know, minutes during the Gayatri, Savitri, and that we have to chant our Gayatri. It's good to chant it during this time. But so then I also said, but if we miss it, then what happens? So then, I don't know, they were saying that then we have to do 2 Gayatris in the other auspicious time. Then, but anyway, I didn't do it. So I just wanted to know that, is it okay if you miss this time and you are still chanting because you have this window, like 3 hours window, you're chanting between this time, is it okay?
So I have received a lot of different answers for this, Mataji. So I obviously asked, because I also had this challenge, especially for the afternoon Gayatri, because I'm at work. Yeah, and Maharaj basically said the recommendation is to chant it at the Sandhyas. So he did not basically give. So I guess he formally did not want to give any concessions that it's okay to chant it like this or that. I mean, I presented it several ways that, afternoon, not possible, this and that. And he kept saying the recommendation is to chant it during the Sandhyas. So my understanding is that's what the position is. From a practical perspective, yes, I can personally attest to the fact that there are many times when I'm not able to chant during the Sandhya, and I chant. So actually, the time for the chanting of the Gayatri is not an auspicious time, it's an inauspicious time. Because the Sandhyas are neither here nor there, so they are chanted to negate the inauspiciousness of the time. My approach has been that if I'm not able to chant during that window, I chant whenever I can, as soon as possible. So if I can't chant at noon and I'm free at 2 o'clock, then I chant it at 2 o'clock. But like I said, this has not been endorsed by Guru Maharaj, and other devotees also shared similar considerations that they try and chant it as soon as they can after the window goes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't give you a definite answer.
Hare Krishna, just to add on this, I remember Maharaj said he gave us a window, like, because normally winter time and summertime, daylight saving, there's a difference. He gave us a window of 6 to 9 in the morning, and then 12 to 3 in the afternoon, and then 6 to 9 again in the evening. I mean, I think I was looking at the difference in time between daylight saving, it fall in between this time. Maybe this is why Maharaj gave this like I believe.
So he said from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the morning.
No, in the 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the morning.
Noon to
And
3 in the
noon
afternoon.
to 3. And then 6 to 9 p.m.
Okay. Okay.
Then
Okay,
even
so
daylight saving fall into that, it compensates in a way.
it compensates, yeah. Because officially a Sandhya lasts for 72 minutes.
Mhm.
It's a little over an hour and 12 minutes. Okay, let's move on. Verse 10, verse 20, sorry. Yamashrit yenendriyat, sorry. Yamashritendriyat indriyaratin durjayan itarashramahi vayanjaye mahelabhi dasyondurgapatiriyataha. As a fort commander very easily conquers invading plunderers, by taking shelter of a wife, one can conquer the senses which are unconquerable in other social organs. So in the previous verse, Kashyapa is glorifying the wife for not only protecting the husband, but also for protecting the society as a whole. And here he is also speaking in the same vein that the grihasthas are actually in a stronger position than the other three ashrams. So he uses an analogy and he says that there are plunderers. So the plunderers are the senses. And then the wife is the commander of the fort. And the fort is the body of the husband or the husband. So when a person is attacked by strong sexual desires, then the fort commander comes in or the wife comes in and protects the husband. In the other ashrams, this is not possible. So the point that Kashyap is making is that only in the Grihastha ashram, if a person falls prey to desires, he does not have to break his religiosity because he can always take shelter of his wife. And that is still within the realms of dharma. And Srila Prabhupada says that sex demand is inevitable for everyone. But one who has a fixed wife, it's interesting, Prabhupada uses the term fixed wife, is saved from the onslaught of the sense enemies. A man who possesses a good wife does not create a disturbance in society by corrupting virgin girls. So not only does the man be protected by the wife, but the society is also protected. Because if the senses of such a person are not protected by the wife, then he will go around corrupting other girls. And so this effect will spread out in the society. Prabhupada says that without a fixed wife, second time he uses the same term, without a fixed wife, a man becomes a debauchee of the first order and is a nuisance to in the society unless he is a trained brahmachari, vanaprastha or sannyasi, which in the current day and age is very difficult. Verse 21. Navayan prabhavastam tvam anukartvan graheshwari apyayu shavakartasneya ye chanye gunagridhanvaha. O Queen of the home, we are not able to act like you, nor could we repay you for what you have done. Even if we worked for our entire life or even after death, to repay you is not possible, even for those who are admirers of personal qualities. So, commenting on this verse, Vishwanath Chakravarti says that Kashyap is using a singular for women and plural for men. So he seems to be saying that all the men cannot repay you, Diti. So from this, Vishwanath is deducing that Kashyap is joking with Diti. So this joking is based on a foundation of truth, but as happens in an environment of intimacy, that exaggeration is used for impact, for effect. So it's like a husband eats a dish prepared by the wife and says, no one in these three worlds cooks as well as you do. Or he sees his wife dressed up and she says that you're the most beautiful woman in the world. So they are exaggerations, but they're based on truth. That the husband is really appreciating the cooking of the wife. She is a good cook. Definitely not the best in the three worlds, but definitely a good cook, or she's definitely good looking, but maybe not in the entire world. So Kashyap is expressing his affection by using this kind of an intimacy that is there between man and wife, in which he is teasing her, but he's also glorifying her, and the glorification is in the mode of humor. Prabhupada says that this indicates Kashyap is henpecked or talking lightly in joke. And then Prabhupada comments on the fact that it is based on truth. That the same point that was made in the previous verse, that husbands as a class cannot repay their debt to women either in this life or in the next. Even if they engage themselves in repaying the women throughout their whole lives, it is not possible. Not all husbands are able to appreciate the good qualities of their wives, but even though one is able to appreciate these qualities, it is still not possible to repay the debt to the wife. And the debt has been explained in the previous verses, that she's a commander of the forces, of the fort. She prevents the husband from falling down from dharma. She participates with the husband in performing the panchayagyas or any dharmic activities. She takes care of the house. So dharma, artha, kam. In all the aspects, she is a protector of the husband and ultimately helps him attain moksha, which is what makes the husband indebted to the wife. Verse 22. Athapi kamametante prajatya karvanyalam yathamana tirochanti muhurtam pratipalaya. Even though it is not possible to repay you. I shall satisfy your sex desire immediately for the sake of begetting children. But you must wait for only a few seconds so that others may not reproach me. So in 8 verses, from verse 22 to 29, Kashyap will present various reasons to postpone the union to a more suitable time. So he says that muhurtam pratipalaya. So a muhurtam is composed of 2 ghatikas. One ghatika is 24 minutes. So muhurtam is 48 minutes. So with the understanding that the evening sandhya is of 3 ghatikas, one can understand that 1 ghatika had passed and 2 ghatikas were remaining. So he's requesting Diti to wait for that time. Srila Prabhupada translates muhurtam to a few seconds. And that translation is also valid in the context that he's asking her to wait for a short. It's like a person saying that I'll be back in a minute. So it's obviously going to be more than a minute, but it's to indicate that I'll be back very shortly. So Prabhupada says that the henpecked husband may not be able to repay his wife for all the benefits that he derives from her, but as for begetting children by fulfilling sexual desire, it is not at all difficult for any husband unless he is thoroughly impotent. This is a very easy task for a husband under normal conditions. In spite of Kashyap being very eager, he requested to wait for a few seconds so that others might not reproach him. He explains his position as follows. So in the subsequent verses, he will explain that why is he asking her to wait for some time. Verse 23. Esha ghoratma vela ghoranam gurdarshana charante yasyan bhutani bhuteshu anucharaniha. This particular time is most inauspicious because at this time the horrible looking ghosts and constant companion of the Lord of the ghosts are visible. So we will see Kashyap in the next 7 verses that he will attempt to frighten his wife by describing the fearful aspect of this time. So in this verse, he used Ghora 3 times. And Ghora means most horrible. And Bhuta, ghosts, 2 times. So at this present time, it is Ghoratma Vela, so most horrible time. And Ghorana, so horrible creatures are moving over here. And Ghora Darshan, that the Bhutas and the Pretas can actually be seen at this time. And what are they doing? Bhuta Isha, that they're following Lord Shiva, their worshipable Lord. So Prabhupada says that after asking her to wait, he is now warning her of the consequences that if she does not wait, what will happen? Last time, Paramatma Prabhu had a question about other children of Diti. So I did a little bit of research in Harivamsha Puran, in the first canto, chapter 3, verses 69 to 71. It is said that Kashyap and Diti had two sons who were also powerful demons. They were Hirnaksh and Hiranyakashipu. They also had a daughter, Simika, who married Viprachitti, whose son was a powerful demon, Rahu. Indeed, Kashyap and Diti had hundreds of sons and thousands of grandsons. It is very difficult to estimate their number. And in the Bhagavatam 6th canto, 18th chapter, and the pastime of the Maruts is described, where the 49 sons of Diti, who were famous as the Maruts, are taken by Indra. And they are the only Daityas who are actually in the association of Indra. Okay, next verse, 24. Etasyan sadvi sandhyayam Bhagavan bhuta bhavana parito bhuta prashadbhira vrishena tati bhutara. Lord Shiva, the king of the ghosts, sitting on the back of his bull carrier, travels at this time, accompanied by ghosts who follow him for their welfare. So Lord Shiva is the king of the ghosts and he guides them for their welfare. And Srila Prabhupada has a very interesting purport over here. And so he says that a person who commits suicide, he gets the body of a ghost. And Lord Shiva, being very compassionate, he takes charge of them. Now there is another category of person who commits spiritual suicide. And these are the impersonalists. And Lord Shiva, as Sripad Shankaracharya, takes care of them. So according to the Vaishnavas, Sripad Shankaracharya was, now according to everybody, he is an incarnation of Lord Shiva, but according to the Vaishnavas, he gave them the impersonalist philosophy in order to trick them to ultimately become devotees. And so just like Lord Shiva is giving shelter to those who have lost their material body, he is also giving shelter to those who have denied their spiritual body. So, but in this verse, Prajapati Kashyap, he is making this point that when Lord Shiva sees the indulgence of sexual intercourse, regardless of the restrictions of time and circumstances, then he places the body of he places these ghosts into the womb of such woman. And so he's cautioning her that you don't want that to happen to you. Okay, verse 25. Smashan chakranila dhuli dhumra vikirna vidyota jata kalapa bhasma vagunthamal rukmadeho devastribhi pashyati devaraste. Lord Shiva's body is reddish and he's unstained, but he's covered with ashes. His hair is dusty from the whirlwind dust of the burning crematorium. he is the younger brother of your husband, and he sees with his 3 eyes. So Lord Shiva is actually related to Kashyap through Diti. So it's interesting that Kashyap is establishing a direct relationship, but Diti's younger sister is Sati, and Sati is the wife of Lord Shiva. So, so in this way, Kashyap is related to Lord Shiv, that his wife's younger sister is married to Lord Shiv, and in that relationship, he's saying that he's a younger brother of your husband, and he's glorifying him also. He's saying that he's unstained, and he's completely renounced. But the point that he's trying to make is that with his 3 eyes, he sees everything everywhere. So the 3 eyes of Lord Shiva is sometimes compared to the sun, moon, and the fire between the eyebrows. So in case Diti objects that Lord Shiva may not see us, and he's busy, he has so many other things to do, or she might say that we can go to a secluded place. So Kashyap is saying it's not possible that he is able to see everything everywhere with his 3 eyes. So he is trying to instill embarrassment into Diti, that if you indulge in this act at an inappropriate time, Lord Shiva will come to know, and there will be censure on in his part. Srila Prabhupada, in the purport, he talks a little bit about Lord Shiva, and he talks more about Lord Shiva if somebody is interested in, as Sarang Prabhu had said, in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I looked it up in the Adi Leela 6th chapter, verse 79. In the purport, he talks more about the Shiva Tattva. So we'll do one more verse, and after that we'll pause if there's any discussion. Na yasya loke swa jana parova natyadrito nota kaschit vigharya vayan vrateryach charana pavidham Ashasmahe Gyan Bhatabhogam. Lord Shiva regards no one as his relative, yet there is no one who is not connected with him. He does not regard anyone as favorable or abominable. We respectfully worship the remnants of his foodstuff, and we vow to accept what is rejected by him. So based on what Kashyap had said, that Lord Shiva is my younger brother, Diti might say that, okay, so we should be fine. It's all in the family. And Kashyap is saying doesn't work like that. That Lord Shiva, he does not view anyone as being favored, and at the same time, he does not hate anyone. But he judges everyone based on what they have done. So saying that he is related to us does not mean that he is going to overlook our offense. Jiva Goswami comments on this that Kashyap might think that Diti will say that Lord Shiva, he lives in a crematorium, So he should be attracted to our bad conduct. Also because he's surrounded by people who are inclined to bad conduct. So Kashyap, that's why, is taking the pains to make a distinction between Lord Shiva and those who surround him. That Lord Shiva is great and is glorifying Lord Shiva, that he is equal to all. He is a great devotee of the Lord. And the point is making is that instead of finding enjoyment in forbidden sexual intercourse, it is preferable to enjoy the remnants of great devotees like Lord Shiva. So the point is making is that rather than using our relationship with Lord Shiva as an excuse to do sinful activities, we should actually use it as something that is a great benediction. That somehow we are related to Lord Shiva, so we should take it as an opportunity to make progress by enjoying it, by honoring his remnants. So Prabhupada says that the greatness of Lord Shiva is incomparable because he's a great devotee of Krishna. So it is said in the Bhagavatam itself, in the 12th canto, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. It's a phrase that is often used. This and that verse from Brahma Samhita, Kshiram Yatha Dadi Vikara Vishesha Yogat, Sanjayate Nahi Tata Pratagaste Hetu, Yah Shambhutam Api Tatha Samupeti Karyat. So they are generally used by Vaishnavas in conjunction with Lord Shiva, that he is the greatest Vaishvanam Yatha Shambhu, and he is almost at the same level. That slight difference, but almost at the same level as Lord Vishnu. So Prabhupada also says that people worship goddess Durga for material prosperity, but Lord Shiva engages her in his service without material desire. He simply advises his great wife that of all kinds of worship, the worship of Vishnu is the greatest. And greater than that is the worship of a great devotee or anything in relation with Vishnu. So this is a conversation between Lord Shiva and Parvati Devi, in which that famous verse comes. That it's there in the Adi Puran. I could not find the exact reference, but this is the verse that comes where it says that of all the worships, the worship of Lord Vishnu is the greatest, and greater than the worship of Lord Vishnu is the worship of his devotees. So that's the conversation. It's a conversation that is happening between Lord Shiva and Parvati Devi. And Srila Prabhupada is quoting that conversation in the purport. Okay, so let me pause here, see if you have any comments or discussions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in the previous verse, verse 25, Prabhupada says in the purport that by, like, Lord Shiva basically punishes by giving, by giving a child of ghostly character or godless impersonalist. So what exactly does it mean by ghostly character? Like, in terms of like what specific characteristics would that child have?
So generally people who are very sinful, they get the body of a ghost. And Lord Shiva, he gives them protection out of compassion. And as Prabhupada says, that when there is inappropriate congress at an inappropriate time, then he gives one of these ghostly followers, because they are all hankering for a gross body. So he places them in the womb of such women, and they are inclined, because they have their predisposition, so they're inclined to impious activities. Or Prabhupada says that people who are averse to Krishna consciousness, says either of them, because Lord Shiva is giving shelter to both of these people. So either those who are materially sinful or spiritually sinful, he places them in the womb of such women.
Okay, so basically godless, either it's impersonalism or
Yes,
godless.
or impersonalist Mayavadi.
And this time, right? This inauspicious time, is that Trikal Sandhya or is it just the evening Sandhya?
So all sandhyas are considered to be inauspicious. That's why the Sandhya Vandanam is done, to negate the inauspiciousness at the time.
Okay, thank you.
Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, just have a question about Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. Both of them are twins, or they born different times? Do we have any?
So they were conceived at the same time, and but Hiranyakashipu considers. So there's a little bit of an unraveling over here, based on different acharyas. According to some, Hiranyaksha is considered to be the younger brother of Hiranyakashipu, and according to the others, he is the elder brother. The difference is based on, so they both appear at the same time. So Diti had them at the same time, but in a certain order. And I don't exactly remember based on who is elder and which is younger. So, but they're considered to be elder brother, younger brother. But
the reason why I'm asking.
But they're born at the same time. Sorry, but they're born at the same time.
The reason why I'm asking is, you mentioned in addition to Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, they also gave birth to many other demons. So every time the conception occurred during inauspicious time, or is it something else which is also playing a role? That's the.
So if you look at in the Bhagavatam, there is not much description of Diti. In the Harivamsh Puran, there is a bit of description of her. In the Vishnu Puran, there's a description of her. So she is described as a person with a cruel disposition, and as a person. So she is the second amongst the wives of Kashyap. She is the second eldest wife. Aditi is the oldest, and there is Diti, and then there are the other wives. But for whatever reasons, she has an unfavorable disposition, and you see that in Kashyap's wife, that some of them are very favorably inclined, and some of Aditi is very favorably inclined. One of his wives is Danu, and Danu is the mother of Danavs. Then one of his wife is Vanita. Vanita is the mother of Garud, and she has pious children. And then another of his wives is Kadru. Kadru is very envious by nature. She has Vasuki and the various snakes as her children. So even though they're all sisters, they seem to have different temperaments. And Diti seems to have a more envious, cruel temperament, and it's probably because of that the all her offsprings are have that demoniac mentality.
Thank you, Prabhu. And if I can I ask you one more question, or somebody else should I allow?
Go ahead, Prabhu. You have the mic.
The last one, just before you finished, you mentioned about Lord Shiva conversing with Parvati, about one who worships Vishnu is the topmost, and one who worships the devotees of Vishnu is even better. So, is he referring to himself because he is also topmost devotee of Vishnu?
No,
is he referring to himself? No.
No, he's not. He is glorifying devotees. I'll try and find the verse. I have it somewhere in my notes. I'll find the verse.
The verse is the verse is from the Padma Puran. Aradhanam Sarvesham Vishnu Aradhanam Param Tasmat Parataram Devi Tadyanam Samacharam, and it's quoted in Madhya Lila, chapter 11, text 31. That's where it's quoted. Madhya 11:31, but it's from the Padma Puran.
Okay. Thank you. So we have the answer.
I'd like to make a comment also regarding the question on Gayatri. There's one book written by Sachinandan Swami. It's called the Gayatri book. And the whole book has to do with the Gayatri mantra. And in one section, he says here that when not to chant the Gayatri. And in just 1 minute, I'm just reading a section where he said that it is important to remember that all devotional service, including the chanting of Gayatri mantras, are meant solely to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And since the Gayatri mantra are a way to address the deity personally, they should be chanted when the deities are awake. Since they are resting, I mean, the deities are resting between 9:30 p.m. and 3:30 a.m., that's in the night, we should avoid chanting Gayatri or any mantra for that matter during that time. The same applies to their midday rest, which is in most temples fall between 1:30 and 3:30 p.m. In both cases, these hours fall after the Sandhya and are therefore not proper times to chant the mantras. One should also not chant Gayatri when the external circumstances are too disturbing and do not allow for peaceful absorption in meditation, meditation. So that's a little comment I'd like to share.
Thank you, Prabhu. And that helps. I hope it answers. I think just to add to that, so I have read that book, but I'm also aware that different gurus have slightly different, not from the philosophical perspective, but just from the more practical perspective. They're slightly different.
Yeah, you're correct. You're correct. In fact, he made a note of that also, just before, that discretion should be there. If, however, unusual circumstances make concentrated Gayatri chanting either difficult or impossible, one should use his discretion to temporarily adjust his Gayatri according to time, place, and circumstances.
Okay. Thank you for sharing, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. You mentioned in Adilila, which chapter about Lord Shiva you were saying?
It's in the 6th chapter, verse 79.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Sure. No, thank you. Yes. Go ahead, Marish.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to, share my appreciation. One was it somehow it made a great impact today to hear that the Lord is so merciful. There is even arrangements He has made through the mercy of Lord Shiva for those people, even those who are condemned. So in a way, everybody is taken care of. So that was a new appreciation I took away. And the second thing was, I've always heard how we are told that the woman is protected by the man and, and so on and so forth. We've heard that narrative. But here there is this other thing that, on the other side of the pan scale is the role of a woman who also is protecting her husband, his dharma and his path towards his spiritual progress. So that was also interesting for me to note. I just thought I'll share that. And I have a small question was, you said Vishravas accepted somebody to have Ravana as his son in that, I think that was in the context of text 15 where she says that she's afflicted. Could you, what was his name?
Kaikeshi.
Kaikeshi. And you also mentioned somebody else who accepted food from Chandala. What was that, Prabhu?
Vishwamitra.
Uh-huh. Because what was he afflicted with at that? What pastime is that?
So what had happened there was that he was performing austerity for actually several thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the time that he ended his austerity, as per the rules, he had to break his fast. He hadn't eaten for like 1,000 years or something like that, but he had to eat something within a short period of time. Now, it so happened that when he ended his austerities, it was also Yuga Sandhya. So one Sandhya was transitioning to another. So at that time, there is generally floods and whatever. So he was not able to find anything suitable, like any fruits to eat or any grains to eat. So he was very much alarmed, and he was moving around trying to find a place where he can get something. And then he basically came to the house of a Chandal who had dog meat in the house. And then he requested him to give some dog meat. The Chandal refused, saying, you're a Brahmin and a sage, I cannot do that. And then Vishwamitra says that at this point, this is the right thing for me to do and you to do. So he gives him dog meat, he eats it.
The other point I wanted to ask, I think you were talking about the Pancha Yajna, the debt to the 5 different personalities, and one was the mankind. And you mentioned compassion, forgiveness.
Charity.
And what did you say?
Charity.
Charity.
Compassion, forgiveness, and charity.
Okay. Such elevated topics. I feel like, just especially when you mentioned that how we shouldn't hold grudge and give it up at that, soon enough. And that seems to be the antidote to the debt that we owe mankind.
And it's interesting that it's actually called a yajna. So it's called Manushya Yajna. It's called the sacrifice for humans, that you quickly forgive. So not only forgiveness, but the stress is on forgiving quickly. Eventually, everybody forgives. But the stress here is that you forgive right away. That is Manushya Yajna, or one of the oblations into Manushya Yajna.
How do we get quick forgiveness?
That's a topic on its on its own. I actually, it's a topic that's close to my heart. I actually gave a seminar in Gita Nagari on forgiveness during Maharaj's retreat. And I'll see if I can talk something about it maybe another time. And there is a wonderful seminar on forgiveness given by Mahatma Prabhu. I don't know where it is, but if you search around, he has a very nice seminar on forgiveness. And Mahatma Prabhu, he speaks.
Yeah.
He blends spirituality into contemporary practices in a very wonderful way when he speaks. So if you want to search around and find that, that's also very nice. My seminar on forgiveness is also there on Maharaj's website.
Which year was it?
It was many years ago.
Okay.
But if you search with my name, I think you will get it.
Sure. I think I've also heard Radhika Raman Prabhu's lecture on the same topic at ISB that he gave. It was also 3-part seminar. It was very nice.
Okay, I haven't heard that. I should make a note to hear that. Yes, Prem Kishore Prabhu?
I was just reminding your year. You spoke in 2013.
2013. Okay. So not that many years ago, at least by my standard.
Prabhu, just a comment. When you talk about yagna and wife, normally some yagna cannot be done if you're not married or you don't have a wife. And just like Ram, when Sita was away, and he could not do this yaj because he has to make a Sita in gold to sit next to him. That means even a wife instead in yagna, if you don't have, you can't do.
You can. Well, the grahastha yagyas. I mean, there are obviously yagyas that you can do.
Yes.
But the grahasthas for the yagyas for the grahastha ashram, you need your wife to be there, and you're right. And that's why Lord Ram had. For every yagya, there used to be a statue of Sita Devi in gold, and she would represent his concept.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. It's also mentioned in the Garg Samhita that because Lord Ram, he performed so many yagyas, and for every yagya, they would have another Sita Devi statue made. And then when Lord Ram was going back, then all the statues came to life, and they said that you can't leave us now. We have sat next to you as wives in a yagya, so we are your wives. So we have to go along with you as your wives. And then Lord Ram gave them the benediction that you will be born in Vrindavan, and then you will be my wives there. So some of the gopis were actually these golden statues from Lord Ram's time. Yes, Prabhu, you had a question or a comment?
Prabhuji?
I can hear you. I thought I could hear you, but I can't, Prabhu. I think you are having some technical difficulty.
Yes, Prabhuji. I was preferring to call from mobile because some audio echo is coming from laptop. So Prabhuji, like many times we hear when we talk about Grihasthashramanda, like wife is, kind of protects your senses, and like man is more. Is it because man is more prone to be a victim of senses, or?
That is true. At least in the area of sexual desires, man is always considered to be the weaker sex.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you for an interesting and informative discussion. We'll stop here. Vanchakalpatarubhayaschit kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sai Gaur Premanand. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.